He's today.
Good.
So Jesus told me that the angels manage all this, and it's really hard on them because they don't do anything without checking with God, and God frequently tells them not to interfere because God knows that we need to experience the consequences of our actions. I'll give you two examples. One is ask God why God allows wars, and Jesus said God has stopped the overwhelming majority of wars that were supposed to happen. But he allows wars to happen because people want them so badly that he wants us to suffer the consequences of wars so that we'll stop doing it. Interesting that everyone said at the end of World War I that it was the war to end all wars. 20 years later, World War II started. We are pretty slow learners. I mean, it's hard to believe that 20 years after the Great War, in which millions of people died, World War I, 20 years later, there was World War II, in which 85 million people died globally. I mean, seriously? Is that a good way to solve our differences? On a personal level, when I asked Jesus about the bad things that happened to me and the bad things that I did, he said, it's all part of your learning, all part of becoming the person that you are. Sometimes our experiential learning is pretty painful. Okay. So God ultimately is the manager. I mean, he's the boss, but directly it's the angels who are trying to take care of business down here. So it doesn't hurt to talk to them and ask for their help. You know, it's okay to ask them for a parking space. Next question. What is the goal of life's evolution? The goal is to become higher than the angels, as the Bible says. Ultimately, we will be holy beings, completely sanctified, no flaws in us at all, and we'll serve God, and we will all serve God in a variety of ways. Some of us by glorifying God, and some of us by being over angels. Some of us will be in charge of teams of angels. Some of us will be in charge of planets, and some of us will be in charge of universes. We'll all become pretty amazing beings. That's where we're headed if we want to. If we don't, we can go into another world where we can tear each other apart for as long as that's working for us. Next question. What is reality? Well, I think to understand reality, you need to know what reality is. And if you look it up in the dictionary, which I've done, reality is a consensus of what we all agree our shared experience is. I have to be careful about me sharing my sense of reality, because I believe in a reality that I run into people all the time that don't share my same sense of reality. That's one of the reasons why I like church and hang out with church people, because they tend to have interest and some have experience and belief in the same reality that I have. My reality is that God is real, Jesus is real, the angels are real, miracles are real, God's plan is real. But I encounter people all the time that don't share that sense of reality. And if I try and express or impose my sense of reality on them, not only are they indifferent, but I get a lot of hostility. You know what? And I don't really like being called an idiot or stupid or, crazy. You should go to a psychiatrist. I've been told that plenty of times. So I'm cautious about who I share my sense of reality with. because what I've experienced is not shared by everyone. And so I look to people in all religions, but most especially in the Christian, Judeo-Christian tradition, because we tend to share the same reality. If people want to tell me their angel encounter stories or their Jesus encounter stories or their conversion stories or their God stories, I mean, I'm all ears, and I accept it face value at what they tell me. I get people that share their stories with demons. I just talked to a guy yesterday about there's demons in his house, and I told him that I believed him, and I told him how I could get rid of them by having his house exercised by a priest. Anyways, for some people, that's like crazy stuff. So there is no consensus in this world about reality is, but in subgroups of our society, like for example, we can find people who are sympathetic and understanding and share the same sense of reality that we might have. I asked Jesus, what's the best religion? And he said, and I quote him, the best religion is the one that brings you closest to God. Now I want to make something clear. When I asked him what is the best religion, I was thinking of Christian denominations like Presbyterian, Baptist, Catholic, Methodist, Congregationalist. But I wasn't thinking of world religion, and people have misinterpreted that because they thought when I said religion, I meant world religion. I didn't say world religion. I meant basically what's the best Christian religion. And he said, the one that brings you closest to God. Typical kind of Jesus answer to a question, but not at all satisfying to me because I wanted a name. Give me a name. Matter of fact, I wanted a church address, I wanted him to say, First Baptist Church on 3rd and Main Street. That's what I wanted to hear from him, something like that. Excuse me. Instead, he gives me this open-ended answer, which is what he does all the time in the Bible to people, because he wants us to think. Jesus doesn't like to tell us what to do. He wants us to think and come to our own, hopefully, right conclusion. So I followed up my question, which one is that? Meaning, which is the best religion? And his answer was, and once again, I'm going to quote him, he said, there are good people and bad religions, and there are bad people and good religions. So there isn't one that's better than. I've had really, really good friends that were Catholic priests, Baptist ministers, Methodists, Pentecostals, United Church of Christ. I go on and on and on. Presbyterian. My pastor right now, although he's serving a United Church of Christ, he's a Presbyterian. I love the guy, absolutely love him, and he and I are really close. As Jesus said, it's good people in all religions, and there's bad people in all religions. And I've also found that to be true, not just in Christianity, but in other religions that I've had the good fortune to have encounters with, like Buddhists and Muslims and Hindus. And I found really good people in those faiths too. And I'm sure there's people in those faiths that I couldn't get along with at all. And there's plenty of Christians I can't get along with because I find them too hateful and mean and nasty. Anyways. Next question, what about atheists? Now, this was real close to home when I asked him that one, because I had been an atheist up until meeting Jesus. And he said, there is no such thing as atheists. Everybody has their God, and I mean that with a small g. Everybody worships something. And a friend of mine, a Baptist minister, by the way, really great guy, good friend of mine, said everybody has a God. The only question is, who's your God? We can make God or gods out of anything. Our boat can be our God. Our home can be our God. Wealth, for lots of people, is their God. Sex. Watched a documentary about a very famous American sex offender whose name I won't mention. I mean, his whole life was his obsession, you know, having lots of sex with young girls. Very unfortunate way to spend your life. And very harmful to the people he victimized. Atheists make a religion about claiming that there's no higher authority. I think that's a problem because having been an atheist for my adult life up to the age of 38, June 1st, 1985, the really cool thing is that it gives you permission to do whatever you want to do, whatever you can get away with. Let me put it that way, whatever you can get away with. So you're the master of your own morality. You're the master of your own philosophy. You're the master of your own reality. You do whatever pleases you at the time. The whole point of being an atheist is, bottom line, immediate gratification for the ego. It's a very, very immature way to live because although God is a mystery, to know that there's a higher authority in the universe, that there's you know, for the sake of the development of the human race and for the harmony of the human race, there has to be some kind of morality, some kind of authority above it all. It's like, seriously, you don't believe there's any authority over you? You do, you know? So I'm going to say this, and I'm sure that if there's any atheists, they'll take offense to it. You've made yourself God. You become your own God. And that's most unfortunate, exceedingly unfortunate. Next question. Why? And I asked Jesus, it's embarrassing, but I asked Jesus, why did he not do something spectacular to prove to everyone who he was? You know, Jesus being fully human, fully divine, being God incarnate in human form, could have done something really big, you know, really huge. Matter of fact, this is really embarrassing. I said, why don't you turn the sky bright orange and write your name, Jesus is Lord, up in the sky for everybody in the world to see? Do something like that. And he thought that was quite amusing. Thank God Jesus got a great sense of humor and doesn't anger easily, because when I think about it, it's insanely stupid question. And his response to that was, people have to choose me out of love and out of hope and out of faith. And I can't do things that would try and coerce people into believing in me. They have to choose. You know, when you think about love, you know, well, hopefully, you don't put a gun to a girl's head and say, marry me or I'm gonna blow your brains out. You know, you don't put a gun to your girlfriend's father and say, you know, give me your daughter in marriage or I'm gonna kill you and your family. I mean, that's not love. it may work, you may get a wife out of it, but that's not love. And God doesn't do it that way. God doesn't use coercion. Love has to be freely chosen. It's the very nature of love that it's going to be a choice that we make, and hopefully it's reciprocated. So Jesus isn't going to do anything spectacular. When he lived in this world, when you read the Bible, his life was quite humble. Next question. Are the things written about Jesus in the Bible true? So his response to that was, he took me back 2,000 years into his world and into his life, and he showed me episodes in his life. His answer, that was part of his answer. The other part of his answer was that the Bible only contains this tiny bit of what he did in the world. And he did so much more than is recorded anywhere. And it's interesting because when I read the Bible after my near-death experience, I came upon the line that if all the things that Jesus did in his life were written down, it would fill all the books in the world, which is, I didn't know that the Bible said that, but when Jesus told me, he said essentially the same thing. He did a lot of things in this world that we don't know about. So all those healings, all those exorcisms, all those teachings, they're just a little sample of what he really did when he was here. And he showed me some of the reality of that. Next question. Why did Jesus have to put up with our rejection of him and be treated the way he was? When I asked that question, I didn't really appreciate how much rejection he did experience in his lifetime and how much he really did suffer. He took on all the sin of the world upon himself. And I mean, that sounds like a almost unbelievable, extraordinary claim, but his suffering was total and fully the experience of the suffering of the world and the consequence of our sin. He took on all the rejection of the world. There was a famous movie made by Mel Gibson about the life of Christ, and people were horrified by the scenes of Jesus's suffering. Well, we studied that, not the movie, but we studied Jesus's rejection, torture, march through Jerusalem, and crucifixion and seminary. The reality is it was much worse than what Mel Gibson showed. And one of the reasons why it was much worse, I mean, in reality, it was much worse than any human being had ever experienced. And one of the reasons why it was so horrible, Jesus was a man of love. Jesus was a man without sin. When we suffer, one of the things that we naturally think about was, what did I do to bring this on me? And I think most people think, gee, there must be a reason why I'm suffering this way because of things that I've done. And there's probably some kernel of truth to that. Maybe not, but anyways, probably some. In Jesus' case, he was a man of pure love and pure goodness, a complete holy man who went through this suffering. So his suffering was worse than what a human being would suffer because of his holiness, his purity. And he could have stopped it at any time. As he told Pontius Pilate, I could bring down an army of 10,000 angels if I wanted to, but I don't. He did all that voluntarily. It's called the atonement. And there's several well-known theories about the atonement. And I believe that one of the reasons why Jesus did that was he wanted to show us that evil no longer had power over us, and there was no power over us in our fear of death. and that through our faith in him, that we would be resurrected into heaven and have eternal life with him. To him, he wanted us to know that because he did it. He said, see what I'm going through? You're going to go through stuff, but you're going to be victorious at the end. There's nothing in this world that can stop the inevitability of your resurrection and your bliss in heaven. Sorry. So when we look to Jesus, we see someone who's the pathfinder. He's paved the way. And he's assured us that he's just showing us the way to heaven and that he's going to take us there as he promised. If we trust him, which is what faith, belief means, to put our trust in him. Don't ever minimize the suffering. Sorry, Corey.
You're a busy man.
Well, one of my best friends, Methodist pastor. Anyway, anyhow.
Oh, Jesus paving the way to heaven.
Jesus shows us the way to heaven. And all we have to do is put our trust and our hope, our faith in him. And the final question I have is, has Jesus been to another world besides our world? And he was somewhat amused by that. And his answer to that was, I've been to all the worlds. Now, I don't know how Jesus can be everywhere all the time. I've speculated on that. And let me just say that since God is awareness, God is omniscient, God is cosmic consciousness, that's how he can be everywhere in everything all the time. But anyways, the Christ is everywhere in everything all the time. And Jesus has been to many other worlds. And so I said, what are they like? So he showed me some other worlds. We weren't participants in those worlds, just spectators. And he showed me some other intelligent worlds. And it's interesting because there's a variety of intelligent lives in the universe. And I just add this because we discussed this later. We're kind of at the bottom of the ladder in terms of our spiritual development. And it's because we're young, we're babies. He made that really clear to me, but we're getting better. And someday this world will be like a paradise. There'll be no wars, there'll be no violence, there'll be no greed. People will live in harmony, not only with each other, but with the whole planet. And it's coming. And that's what we all need to be striving for, each in our own little way. You know, the things that we do don't seem to be very important. Like, we have recycling where I live, and I have a bin in the kitchen, and I put the plastics and the paper products, and I dismantle cardboard boxes because that's what the recycling people want. You know, it's really easy to take a cardboard box apart. I mean, you know, you say, well, what difference does that make? Well, it's my own pitiful little way of contributing to what I'm hoping are millions of other people recycling and doing something for the planet. It's kind of a no-brainer, and I really wish everyone would recycle. I really wish people wouldn't litter, you know, just throw their trash out the window or whatever. I am very involved with mission work. And one of the things that I hope to achieve through my mission work is to set an example that we as individuals can make significant contributions to the lives of other people who have a lot less than we do. I'm not super comfortable with the words, I'm privileged, I'm entitled. The reality is, I am very privileged and I am very entitled by virtue of being a middle-class American. People that I work with in the less developed world think I'm incredibly wealthy. And from their perspective, I am. I don't think of myself as a wealthy person. Matter of fact, a lot of times I'm like, have a pity party going for me and like, oh, woe is me. I need money. I can't pay my bills. If I only had more money, da 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 da. The fact of the matter is, my collective wealth is probably greater than the whole village in San Victor that I work with. I mean, I probably have more wealth than the 900 people in that village put together. I mean, I'm not bragging. It's just, it makes me feel terrible. So part of what I'm doing is I'm trying to raise them up, and I don't do that by going around and like handing out dollar bills. I learned a long time in ministry that that's not helpful. What I do with the love and support and cooperation of hundreds and hundreds of other people in the US is we go down. We've built most of the school buildings. We've built 76 nice homes. We sent hundreds of kids and paid their tuition to go to high school, which is not free in Belize. You got to pay for it. We've sent young people to junior college and to four-year college, and we've even brought kids up to the United States and other countries to go to graduate school and paid for it. We've tried to help them by supporting them in what they need and what they want. We built a big Catholic church in the village because most of the people are Catholic. We've also supported many of the other churches in the village, like the Pentecostal church, etc. Right now, I'm doing the biggest project I've ever done in my life, which was we're building a community center in that village. And in US dollars, it's probably going to end up costing around $170,000, $180,000. But if we're in the US, building this building would be more, somewhere between $500,000 and $1 million, because we pay our laborers the Belize rates, which is a tiny fraction. This is embarrassing to say, but we pay them what the Belizeans tell me we should pay, which is less per day than an American worker makes per hour. And that's the going rate down there. So that's why I say the building's going to be worth, if we're by American pay standards, it would be way more, 3, 4, 5 times more than it costs up here. But anyhow, we're employing a lot of people, men. They're quite satisfied with the wages that we're paying, and it's good for their economy. And then this community center, which will also be a hurricane shelter for the village. There'll be many opportunities for education, for learning technical skills, like there's going to be a computer lab and a women's sewing center and things like that. And my hope is that it will further uplift them economically, educationally, and as a community for decades and decades to come. I'll give you one little example specifically. the village is run by an elected mayor and a village council. They've never had an office, ever. When they meet, because their houses are small, they typically meet outside and sit around in someone's backyard in chairs and discuss the village business. One of the things that will be in this building is an office for the mayor and an office for the village council. And they will have things that they've never had, like desks, conference tables, really nice upholstered chairs, bookcases, filing cabinets. And if we have enough money, we'll even put a copy machine in there. If there's enough money to get one. You know, they're gonna have access to the internet. They'll have, you know, hopefully have computers and Wi-Fi in the building and stuff like that. I mean, frankly, they're not going to believe it when we finish this building and equip it and they occupy it. It's, I mean, they're going from having literally nothing to having a world-class equipped office. To me, this is really, really exciting because I know the mayor now. He's a really good guy. I knew the past mayor. I liked him very much. I know a number of the men on the city council, and these are people that are just dedicated to their community. They're not crooks. They're not politicians, which I think is a good thing. They're just members of the community that try and keep the community running and harmonious and stuff like that. And I want with this building and with the equipped offices, I want them to really appreciate their work, and hopefully the community will have more respect for them because now they, you know, have these nice facilities to meet in and stuff like that. So that's just one example. I'm going to go on and on all the things we want to do in this building, but this is the biggest project I've ever done. And it's really exciting. And by the way, the building right now is structurally more than half done. So I'm hoping by May that it'll be complete. See how the work goes, which is going great, but see how the money goes. I am through GoFundMe seeking donations. If you go to GoFundMe and look at Community Center in San Victor, Belize, there it is.
Is there a link to that I could put in the description? I didn't want to cut you off while I'm thinking of it because sometimes their websites don't provide them for whatever reason. So if you could send me a link at some point, I could put that in this video so people can offer to go fund you.
Okay. There is a link on my website, I believe.
Okay, I'll check that.
Yeah.
All right, I'll check that out.
But all you have to do is you go to GoFundMe and then put in Community Center in San Victor, Belize, and you're there. And that's a really cute interview with me and two of the people that are responsible for this building, etc.
Okay.
So that's we've covered the chapter.
It was a really insightful chapter. I like the questions. Some of the answers you got too were kind of cool. So I know the holidays are coming up. So the next interview or for the next chapter, I'm assuming probably in the new year sometime, or
yeah,
yeah,
or the week after Christmas, whatever.
Yeah, I'm good for that. I know we have questions, but like I say, maybe another Q&A because there's quite a few of them here.
Yeah.
Is there anything you'd like to leave with anybody before I stop recording? Or
well, I don't know when they're going to view this, but I know when we're doing it. And we're doing it just a few days before Christmas, and Christmas is my second favorite holiday of the year. Easter is my favorite holiday. Christmas has been so commercialized in the U.S. that it's hard to not be distracted by the commercial power of Christmas around here. So I'm trying to keep the real spirit of Christmas alive. For example, I'm in the church choir, and Sunday we sang Gloria, Gloria, Gloria in excelsis Deo. And that to me really captured the spirit of Christmas. So keep those Christmas carols and hymns in mind. How can you not love Silent Night? You know, I mean, once you have those words of Silent Night going through your head, that's the real Christmas right there. So God bless you and have a wonderful Christmas.